But then what's going to happen with Gaza if you've got Hamas not disarming? The peace deal's dead because that's part of phase 3, I think, that Hamas has to disarm. That's one of the main conditions that Israel has, probably the most important condition after the release of the hostages. If Hamas does not agree to disarm and hand over their weapons, maybe to the new technocratic government, Palestinian government, then you've just got an endless war that will obviously not work in Palestine's favor. It will not help for a two-state solution. It will not help the Palestinians in Gaza to finally to live a normal life again. I just don't see it. If Hamas does not disarm, there's no possibility to be optimistic about the future.
It's remarkable what, if you think about it, what Hamas actually was able to achieve against 3 nuclear powers. It's still holding control of part of Gaza, and therefore Gaza is still under Palestinian control. And so you ask, what will happen to Gaza if Hamas doesn't?
What control? What control? No electricity, no water, no food, no business, no hospitals.
Hamas is, well, let me make my point and then I'll get to that.
Please, yeah.
Because you asked what will happen to Gaza if Hamas doesn't put down their arms. I think the question is, what would have happened to Gaza if they had been routed and defeated completely? And that plan was already put forward. So we already kind of know what the day after plan that Trump was advancing was. And it was to put Tony Blair, war criminal who contributed to the decimation of Iraqi society, in which 1 million Iraqis were killed, in control of a transitional authority in Gaza, which would have been substantially guided by techno-feudalist overlords from the West, including Larry Ellison, who's contributed $300 million to the Tony Blair Institute. And this plan, going down into the base of the plan, called for actually some form of biometric concentration camps in which, the irredeemable elements would be purged. The families would be then pushed to involuntarily migrate by being given a digital token in exchange for their homes. Then they'd be subsidized to live somewhere else. It could have actually led to a conflict with Egypt because naturally they'd be pushed into the Sinai, which Israel previously occupied. So the alternative was a neo-colonial techno-dystopia. And now you have a kind of dystopian moonscape that is still under Palestinian control, with Palestinian flags over the city, in which there's no Tony Blair, and Hamas does control municipal functions. There will be some rebuilding process. I think countries like Turkey and Qatar will play a role there. Egypt is emerging as more of a player than it was previously. And they have flouted, it's not just Israeli plans, it's Emirati and Saudi plans to completely remove Hamas because of the threat Hamas and the idea of the Muslim Brotherhood present in their own societies as sort of democratic Islam, going to the ballot box versus monarchy. So that plan has been at least tabled for now. And where do they go now? Well, the Palestinian struggle continues. The global rebellion against Israeli domination and Israeli hegemony continues to grow. And these are all, in a way, victories that Hamas achieved amid horrendous human suffering. And I think I'm trying to be objective here, but this is something I think very few people consider. The question was, is Gaza going to be controlled by Palestinians, or is it going to be controlled by the same people who are like looting our own societies here in the West as they make a run on Gaza's oil fields, vast oil riches on the Mediterranean? So that's the point I wanted to make.
I see your concern with the alternative, Max. Many concerns with the alternative. Palestine should be run by Palestinians. They should have the right to self-defense like any other country. They should be a sovereign country, control their borders, have an airport. So we agree there. But we both also understand this is not feasible, especially if Hamas maintain their weapons. This is what my concern is that the alternative, the cost of freedom right now, we've seen it in the last 2 years. The cost of maintaining that freedom and deciding what to do with their own arms comes at a pretty hefty cost. The alternative, and let's try to be a bit more optimistic. Trump has put his name behind this deal. He said there will be peace. Peace will be made. He talked about how this is a war that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, and he's managed to solve it. He's also forced Netanyahu to apologize to the Qatari leader, which is, I don't think I've seen an American president do that before. If you disagree, I'd love you to jump in. But isn't there also room to be optimistic that maybe this peace deal, you've got Kushner talking about the French Riviera type investments in the region. I know that's way too optimistic, but I'm saying that maybe there is a path to prosperity. Maybe there is a path where step by step, I don't know about a two-state solution. That seems very difficult, at least for the next few years, but at least there'll be some resemblance of normality for Palestinians under some sort of weird structure that we don't have in many other countries, if any.
No, I mean, the French Riviera plan is a Jewish supremacist fantasy that I just detailed for external control and looting of Gaza, in which Palestinians will be serfs. They will be working in sweatshops, as a McKinsey document produced under the watch of Tony Blair that I revealed at through my own reporting back in 2012. That's the plan. The Boston Consulting Group produced plans for the so-called Gaza Riviera. And at the end, there are Emirati wealthy emirs and figures from Saudi Arabia meeting with Elon Musk-like figure at a Tesla-like plant where Palestinians from Gaza will provide the low-cost labor. That's the future for them that's being proposed by Jared Kushner, who has invested in a company that is involved in proposals to build Jews-only real estate on the coast of Gaza. So this is not someone who Palestinians
Jews-only real estate?
Yeah, like seafront real estate in Gaza.
Okay,
I would assume it would be something that Israelis would live in, and they're not really planning on living alongside Palestinians in Gaza. The religious nationalist camp in Israel, which has a substantial voice in Netanyahu's coalition, has called for resettling northern Gaza. This is their plan. So I think all these plans have been put forward without any input from Palestinians. In fact, when Tony Blair and his International Transitional Authority named figures who would govern in their fantasy world, very few Palestinians were even named. So it's a neo-colonial plan, and Palestinians who have any dignity will not accept it. I know there's some who've been bought off and support some kind of collaboration, but that's not where Palestinians who've been fighting for freedom for almost a century are going to be, from my perspective. And it's sort of laughable to talk about it after what we've seen Donald Trump do especially in his second term, where again and again he has been